And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China!
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China!
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China!
Russian.
Russia!
Italian.
Italy!
German.
Germany!
Swedish.
Sweden!
Korean.
Korea!
Egyptian.
Egypt!
Nigerian.
Nigeria!
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing. Yes.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The true Jews of Israel are your black ancestors. Are your black ancestors. Are your black ancestors. The true Jews of Israel are your black ancestors. You think you and Kyle make TikToks together? Kyle only cares about money. Think about it. Are you really making TikToks together, or is Kyle profiting off of you? It's just like the lost tribes of Israel. It's just like the lost tribes of Israel.
I was noticing that you're kind of hanging out a lot with Kyle lately. Is there a problem with that? No, I think it's amazing. It's awesome that someone like you could be okay with someone like him, given all the new information lately. You know, the stuff that's come out about how the Jews stole the black race's identity? That the lost tribes of Judah were actually all Africans? You didn't hear about this? Black people are actually the Jews and people like Kyle have taken that from them? Stop talking to me. When the Jews came to America to escape persecution in World War II, they found that blacks were already the underclass in America. So they had to invent a story for themselves which they could make everyone believe because Kyle runs Hollywood.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
Now, before we get too deep in the subject, we have to, first of all, lay down the ground rules that genetics are not identity. That genetics are not identity. That genetics are not identity.
It just doesn't matter. It
genetics are not identity, right? The criteria to determine Jewish identity are far more complex and really depend on who you go to as your authority. The mainstream rabbinic view, which is embraced by Orthodox Jews to be sure, and for most of Jewish history over the last couple millennia, has been that Jews receive their identity in two ways, either through matrilineal descent, meaning they are born of a Jewish mother, or through conversion. And there's a whole bunch of discussions about what exactly that conversion means.
Wells comes face to face with the man he's been searching for. A new portrait of the common ancestor of every man today. Adam. Without the skull, we can't know for sure what Adam looked like. But a combination of genetic evidence, vendors' forensic skills, and cutting-edge computer software suggests he looked something like this. Thousands of years after the Bible, and hundreds of years after Michelangelo, we have a whole new face for Adam.
Now, before we get too deep in the subject, we have to, first of all, lay down the ground rules that genetics are not identity. That genetics are not identity. That genetics are not identity. One of the things that's really important about the Kohanim is that their wives maintain fidelity, meaning the sons of these women were in fact the sons of their husbands at the same time. Now, let's go back to the Lemba, now that we have identified this Kohen gene, so-called Kohen gene. Several scholars working with Goldstein, including the great Tudor Parfit, a tremendous historian who's worked extensively in Africa, retrace the migration patterns described in the Lemba tradition. They put that into context with the oral tradition that they have of descent from Judea. So we can first of all push aside the whole question of mitochondrial DNA, because when the Lemba women were tested, there was no similarity to Jewish women. When the Lemba women were tested, there was no similarity to Jewish women. When the Lemba women were tested, there was no similarity to Jewish women.
I was very excited when I first started to get evidence, and it was so counterintuitive. I'd put 20 Europeans and 20 African Americans on a sheet of X-ray film, and every African American showed differences, and all the Europeans looked the same. And I thought I'd mislabeled something, or I thought I'd made some drastic mistake. And we kept repeating and repeating things. As we got more samples from different areas, I realized that it was a difference in the pattern, and that this whole new type of evidence based on mitochondria was going to change the way we thought about modern humans.
First of all, push aside the whole question of mitochondrial DNA, because when the Lemba women were tested, there was no similarity to Jewish women or Middle Eastern women. Their DNA was primarily similar to the African Bantu-speaking peoples among whom they lived.
I was very excited when I first started to get evidence, and it was so counterintuitive. I'd put 20 Europeans and 20 African Americans on a sheet of X-ray film, and every African American showed differences, and all the Europeans looked the same. And I thought I
myself encounter an absurd amount of traffic on my websites from people who are angry with me and send me really nasty hate messages because when I speak, for example, about historical figures, biblical figures like, let's say, King David, and I don't emphasize the idea that King David was black, the reality is that the Tanakh describes him as being ruddy, so he was probably red-haired, and one would assume something like Caucasian.
Did you say you assumed?
Yes.
Your Honor, May Defense Counsel use that blackboard?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Olam, you should never assume, because when you assume, you make an ass of you and me.
And I don't
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Say peace and blessings to everyone. Hope all is well with you guys. Before we get started, want to do a mic check just to make sure that the microphone is playing correctly. We are going to get right into the lesson. And before we get into the lesson, I want to give shout outs to my cousin, Shalonda Carr, the wife of the late, my cousin, Dr. Sean Carr. Family, let's show my cousin some love as we get ready to get into this lesson. Let's show us some love. I want to say peace and blessings to you, cuz. All right, so let's go to get into a family. I'm not going to prolong getting into this lesson because it's pretty detailed. And so I know many of you guys have a lot of questions about the feast days and the blowing of the trumpets, which is coming up. And so I really want to give clarity on what the blowing of the trumpets is, and Day of Atonement, the Feast of Tabernacles. But tonight, we're really going to deal with blowing of the trumpets. And so our lesson for today is blowing of the trumpets, the sound of unity. Let me say it again. The blowing of trumpets, the sound of unity. And I know unity is something that we hear a lot, that's echoed within our community, that too bad we cannot come together, or hopefully one day we can unify. We can have unity in our community. Right now, it seems as if the goal is to be separated, to have division. But when we understand the blowing of the trumpets, we understand that is the sound of unity within our community. And I believe if everyone, whether you are in this awakening or not in this awakening, that followed the holy text and honored the holy text, honor the feast days, honor the blowing of the trumpets, as well as some of the other feast days that are listed, it will give you a whole different perspective. It will really make things a lot clearer of why it's important to honor these feast days. And believe it or not, it's going to point you back to the Messiah. And so I believe the blowing of the trumpets recalibrates the entire community and allows us to see what's important, who is the enemy and who is not the enemy. Unfortunately, the way things are, especially with social media and different theologies and all these different teachings and doctrines, and this has caused us to think that it's better to have division indirectly. Many are operating of the spirit of divide and conquer. That is Hasatan to its fullness. But let's go and get into it. Blowing of the trumpets, and I hope and pray this gives you a whole nother perspective. And I kind of wanted to pivot away from a lot of the talks and the discussions that we've been covering over the past week or two, the buzz that are circulating among this awakening and outside this awakening. Get back to some of the foundational teachings, even though I have some things I'm going to cover tomorrow night, for example. I'm going to cover, that's going to be the last lesson I do on Freemasonry. I'm not going to touch that lesson for a while to give you proper clarity on what is that entire system, that religious system. And then we're going to do a lesson about part 2, or rabbinical shade, right? So we're going to pivot away from discussions that really have kind of, I believe, hijacked this upcoming set of feast days. So we here on We Woke Now, we're just going to turn our attention back to some foundational things. And normally when you go into these foundational teachings, unfortunately, because of the day and time we're living in, many people don't want to hear foundational teaching. They want to hear things that's going to itch their ears. They want to use that as an opportunity to kind of rally together the groups of, like the scripture says, heap together teachers that's going to help promote things that they don't want to let go. And that's this divisive spirit, the spirit of separation and isolation. But nevertheless, let's go to get into a family. Blowing of the trumpets, the sound of unity. I want to start off with Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, this biblical prophecy. This is what it says. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints. And when you see saints here, this is dealing with the holy people of Israel. This has nothing to do with the Roman Catholics, because that word saints was actually created to point to someone that the Roman Catholics have deemed to be holy, and they canonize that person and give that person sainthood after they die. So this is dealing with the Quadash, the holy people of the Most High. This is starting with Israel. This has nothing to do with the church here, because the church is not Israel. The church is the original church, truth be told, is the Celtic, the Celts. That term was used to describe their place of worship. And in the 4th century, that's where the Christianity, Catholicism, took hold of that word. And now this is why we have so much confusion, because some can't make sense of whether or not if the churches are the people or if it's a physical structure. And that word church in the Celtic belief system, is actually a place of worship, because it was in a circle. Stonehenge is the original church, truth be told. But anyway, let's reel it back in. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the holy people of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hands until a time and times and the dividing of times. I know most people, when they interpret this text, they automatically go to the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar. And, they automatically go there. They automatically go to the Shabbat, seventh day, worship versus the first day of the week, or should I say Sunday worship. And I encourage you guys, I have some lessons in the foundational playlist that really walks you through reconstructing the calendar from beginning to end. It's a 3-part series. I believe it's titled He Rose, or He is Risen. He's not here. What day? But let's take this a lot deeper. This is not just dealing with what many of us would automatically default to is time in terms of the calendars, but this is dealing with feast days. Think to change whether or not we should honor feast days, change times and laws. Well, whether or not to honor the commandments or not. Right now, according to the church, Christianity and Catholicism, they teach that according to their laws that we are no longer under the what? The law, the instructions that was given to Moses by way of the Most High. And within there contains the 10 commandments, the covenant, So it's more than just trying to, or should I say, minimizing or reducing this just to the Shabbat or the Gregorian calendar. It's more than that. All right. So again, that's why I want to deal with this subject here tonight. And he shall speak great words against the Most High and shall wear out the holy people of the Most High and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times. So let's deal with this word wear out real quick. Let's see what it means from a Hebraic school of thought. We see the word is bala. And what does bala means? We see it right here: to fail, to wear out, decay, consume. Here's the kicker: use up completely. In entry number 2, to harass constantly. To harass constantly. And so many of us in this awakening, we have been harassed constantly on every side of the fence, from every angle, all because of we are waking up to who we are. We get harassed by people from within the church. We get harassed by people within the conscious community. We get harassed constantly from people within Islam. We get harassed constantly from the Jewish community as we know them. We get harassed constantly, even from some from within our own community. We tend to get harassed more than any other group of people. Bala, to fail. That's the whole purpose of making changes and manipulating the Most High's times and his laws to do things. Is so that way it would what? Use us up completely, to wear us out. So that's what Bala means. So the first thing I want to deal with is, what is Rosh Hashanah? I want to make sure you guys understand the deception of Rosh Hashanah. Let me show you the deception. I want to go over this first before as we paint and walk this thing out, because when we start dealing with the Day of Atonement and all these things, when we start dealing with Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah, beginning, year. Rosh Hashanah, beginning, right? Year. Top, year. I just gave you what it means with the Hebrew words, ancient Hebrew words, but I'm going to define it for you, because Rosh Hashanah is a made-up holiday. That's not even a biblical holiday, or should I say feast day? I don't want to say holiday, because I don't want to take certain terms that's connected to these secular things that was created, like Christmas is a man-made holiday. Easter is a man-made holiday. Halloween, those are man-made holidays. And yes, it is a holiday. Thanksgiving is a man-made holiday. But we have the feast days, right? We have the Passover. We don't need Easter. We have the Passover. We have the Feast of Dedication. We have all these things that are in place that Hasatan craftily came up with other things. Remember, changing times and laws, that many of our people would rather flee to those things than to embrace the very things that the Most High has put in place. So what is Rosh Hashanah? Now I want to give you some Hebrew letters here. This is the Hebrew letter, the Ra'ash. In the Israeli language is pronounced Resh. As you see the pictograph, it looks like a brother man with an afro, right? This is the pictograph. But Ra'ash, this is the head, this is the neck. And I just gave you the definition of this just by describing this here. The head, the neck. So the head, top, rank, protocol, right? Beginning. So Ra'ash is the ancient pronunciation of this word. As you see here, head, top, rank, beginning. The numerical value is 200. So here's the word Shana. And I'm going to use the Hebrew words, the Hebrew letters rather, because you can use the Hebrew letters to really to break down a definition of a Hebrew word to give you an idea what it means and what it's for. So we see the shan, which means teeth, tool, right? The pictograph is literally teeth, like a saw. Then we see the nan, right, which in the Israeli language is the noon. But we see it means seed, it means continual, it means perpetual, it means to sprout. So we see the shah, right, which is teeth, tool. In the Israeli language, it could be the seen or the sheen based upon what position the nakud is at the top. But I'm not teaching Israeli. We're dealing with ancient Hebrew, right? Then the last letter, which is the ha, right? The last letter, which is the ha, and it means reveal, uncover, open. This is where you get the Hebrew word gala, right? Shana, right? Remember, teeth, tool, seed, continue, perpetual, reveal, uncover, open, right? But this, and we're going to delve into it. I'm going to give you some Hebrew definitions of this, but I want you to keep that in mind. Now, I want to take you to this source here, and I'm going to drop this source inside the comment section because it's imperative for you guys to be careful. Many of our brothers and sisters are operating and celebrating Judaism. They're practicing Judaism. They're practicing Rosh Hashanah. And I'm going to show you that the same playbook that the Catholic Church, the Christian Church has done, guess what? We see the same thing happening in Judaism. And I'm going to share with you and show you guys that Rosh Hashanah is a made up day. It's made up. It's make believe. Let me make some adjustments to this slide real quick. All right. Let me stretch this out a little bit as I get ready to show you some of the bullets here. You guys know me by now. I like my presentations to look a certain way because I believe it's one thing to give good information, but it's also great with presenting the information in a good way so it resonates. So I don't have to, for the most part, explain a lot of the sources that I give. It gives you enough time to be able to write it down and make notes as well. All right. So when you see my presentations, I'm just showing you my outline. When I give a message, when I would give a sermon, I would usually type up an outline and then I would teach the people. But now I have made the PowerPoints, these presentations, my outline. Now, of course, my sermons would not be as lengthy as these presentations I'm presenting to you because these presentations will be broken off into sections and parts because of the length of it and the in-depthness of the lessons, the topic. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Rosh Hashanah, and this is history.com, and notice what it says: the Jewish New Year. So Rosh Hashanah is supposed to be the Jewish New Year. Wait a minute. How is Rosh Hashanah? How is the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar the New Year? When the Most High gave us instructions, he made it clear and just laid out the blueprint on how to identify our New Year. So how can we have two New Years? Because the way we calculate our New Year is based upon the spring equinox, right? Now, Israel's New Year does not begin on the spring equinox, but pretty much it's the first new moon after the spring equinox. The first new moon after the spring equinox, not full moon, new moon. That's Israel's New Year, which already occurred, already took place. So how is the 7th month a celebration of a new year? Right? Have you guys thought about that? Some of you guys probably didn't even think about that. How is the 7th month now become a new year? Are you guys asking this question?
What?
Have that type of look on your face like, wait a minute, how in the world is that the case? How? Right? For me, it's like, okay, got to explain this.
Challenge!
See, this is an example of Daniel chapter 7 that I just covered, changing times and laws. See, we have to recalibrate. We have to stop with this strictly going after Christmas. You already know that there's a ton of lessons that's getting ready to come out about Halloween, about Christmas, about Easter. But what about Rosh Hashanah? It's because many of our brothers and sisters will be celebrating this, practicing Judaism. But let's see what the history.com says about this made up holiday. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is one of Judaism's holiest days, meaning head of the year or first of the year. The festival begins on the first day of Tishrei, the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar, which falls during September or October. Rosh Hashanah commemorates the creation of the world and marks the beginning of the days of awe. See, there's a number of things that they making up here. Days of awe. What is the days of awe? Some of our brothers and sisters are practicing Judaism. A 10-day period of introspection and repentance that culminates in the Yom Kippur holiday, also known as the Day of Atonement. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, are the two high holy days in Jewish religion. And then under the section that says history and significance of Rosh Hashanah, it says Rosh Hashanah is not mentioned in the Torah. Judaism founding religious text. So I'm going to show you that this is correct, but then it's incorrect. I'm going to show you the phrase Rosh Hashanah, but there's no holiday. It's not what it's been made out to be today. And I'm going to show you where it actually falls. So Rosh Hashanah is not mentioned in the Torah, Judaism's founding religious text, and appears under different names in the Bible. Though the holiday was likely well established by the 6th century BC, see, this is now putting assertions and opinions. I can guarantee you this is pulling from the Talmud and the Jewish community as we know them literature. The phrase Rosh Hashanah shows up for, I didn't put it all in there, but let's hone in on this quote here. It's not mentioned in Torah. Now they are incorrect because I'm going to show you the phrase, but there's no celebration, right? Let me show you the phrase here in a second, but let me show you one more article here, and then I'm going to give you some scripture here. We're going to confirm these things. So I want to give you another source here. Actually, we'll do 2 more sources, and then I'll give you the actual biblical text, right? So let me put this here. Let me drop this in the comment section. Here's another link. All right, here's another link. All right, let's send this to the back. Here's another link. I dropped it in the comment section. You guys can discuss it. This is not me coming up with these sources, right? But this is something that you need to read. This is a guy by the name of Israel Drazen. So this is a person from the Jewish community as we know them. And it's coming from the timesofisrael.com, which is a Jewish publication. Let's see what it says. Let's see what he says. Rosh Hashanah is not a biblical holiday. Wait a minute, family. Didn't I just say that to you? Didn't I just say that to you? Let me read it one more time, just so that way you guys can understand exactly what it says. It says that Rosh Hashanah is not a biblical holiday. And for anyone that says differently, I'm willing to put this out there.
Challenge!
Challenge out there. Rosh Hashanah is not a biblical holiday. Have you ever wondered why Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not highlighted in the Torah as pilgrimage holidays, as Passover, Shavuot, or Shavuot, and Sukkot are? This is because neither Rosh Hashanah nor Yom Kippur are biblical holidays. Both replace biblical holidays and are notably different from the holidays they replace. The biblical holiday Yom Teruah, which was replaced by Rosh Hashanah, had a totally different purpose than Rosh Hashanah, which focuses on the onset of a new year, repentance, and commitment to live the next year, right? So this is another source that I want to go to. And again, family, we're going to deal with all the feast days over the next couple of weeks. But I want to go to another source, and I'm going to drop this inside the comment section where it says Rosh Hashanah wasn't always the new year. Here's the Jewish holidays history. So I'm going to give you another source, right? Remember, by 2 or 3 witnesses, right? That's the only way we can establish anything. We have to give multiple witnesses. So let me give you a third witness that I'm going to drop inside the comment section. All right, so I just dropped it inside the comment section. So let's read some highlights from this article, right? It says here, Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, the day the Hebrew calendar begins. But that wasn't always the case. In fact, the ancient Hebrews, and this is what they're saying, probably had no concept of when this year started at all. That's a lie. Nor did they give the months names. Now, that's the truth. They didn't have names for months during the time of Moses, during the time of Abraham, during the time of Isaac. The Torah merely enumerating them, the first month, the 7th month, right? On the other hand, the first of Tishrei celebrated Rosh Hashanah nowadays. And Tishrei is not these are words that when you start getting into these names of the months, they're pulling from the Babylonian calendar. So on the other hand, the first day of Tishrei, celebrated as Rosh Hashanah nowadays, is mentioned as a holiday, albeit a very minor one. It is in no way a celebration of the new year. Quite contrary, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24 says regarding the first day of Tishrei in the 7th month and the first day of the month shall be a Shabbat, as in day of rest, a memorial of blowing of trumpets and holy convocation, Makwarah, holy convocation, right? a corporate celebration. That's a whole nother discussion when we get into holy convocation, right? Because one thing that really came to, that I got the revelation from, that if man can have convocations in these Baptist churches, these Methodist churches, these Pentecostal churches, these non-denominational churches, if they can have all these different type of holy convocations, then they can honor the true holy convocation that's highlighted in Leviticus chapter 23. So a memorial of blowing of trumpets and holy convocation. The Bible does not list any special practices for the holiday beyond blowing trumpets and sacrificing some animals. Though fewer than were sacrificed on the two major holidays, Passover and Sukkot, no specific reason is given for the blowing of the trumpets, nor are we told what we are supposed to remember. And see, family, we're going to go through giving clarity on what's the blowing of the trumpets when you start putting all of this together, right? So I'm giving you sources, but we're going to give clarity. One thing all three sources are in sync with saying or telling you that Rosh Hashanah is fake, is manufactured, it was created. It is supposed to be a New Year celebration. That's right. Also, Yaquaba, that's right. Hanukkah or Kanakath. You won't find anything about inside the scriptures about candle oil, the menorah miraculously burning for 8 days off of 1 day of fuel. That's all fabricated. Now, the feast of dedication is there, right? Kanak, right, means dedicate, train. All right. So just wanted to give clarity because I saw a comment in the comment section about that. All right. So let's continue here. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 1. Now I'm going to show you the phrase Rosh Hashanah inside the scriptures, right? The beginning of Israel's new year, contrary as to one of the articles suggested that Israelites had no concept of a new year. That's an absolute fabrication. That's not correct. So Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 1, right? And I highlighted it here so you actually could see exactly where the phrase is. Ba in Rosh Hashanah. So this is what? In beginning, right? And this is what? The new year. Shana is pretty much year in ancient Hebrew. And this is where you would see it at. In the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning, Ra'ash of the year, Shana, Ha-Shana, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was smitten, in the self same day, the hand of Yahweh was upon me and brought me thither. So we see that this is the beginning of the year, but this is not in the 7th month. This is in the 1st month because that's the beginning of the Hebrew calendar. So this is telling us the 10th day, right? The 10th day of this particular year, the 10th day of the month, right? This is before Pasach. This is before the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right, so we see the phrase here. That's why I want to give clarity, but you're not going to see what they pointed out there. So we see Ra'ash Ha-Shana. Let me say that again. And this is Quadash here. But Ra'ash Ha-Shana. And there you have it, family. So the first Hebrew calendar month, right? This is the first Hebrew calendar month. And I encourage you guys to go back and watch the lesson that I did as I reconstructed the Hebrew calendar. And I can guarantee you, if you go back and watch that lesson, it's 3 lessons that are inside the playlist that is titled Foundation, right? Foundational. And you'll see 3 lessons about When was the resurrection? You'll see part 1, part 2, and part 3. And I literally walk you through showing you how to identify the what makes a day according to scriptures, what makes when does a day start according to the scriptures, the seasons according to the scriptures, the months according to the scriptures, and we reconstruct the very first calendar. And this is the very first month of that very first calendar. Abib is not the name of a month. I see a question about the month of Abib. Abib is a season, it's a harvest time. It's not, that's why it says the first month. Abib is not the name of a month. Abib is just like what we would say today of being spring. So I want to be clear. Moses used the first month. In Exodus chapter 12, you see him with Moses saying, this day shall be what? The first day of the month for you. He didn't say Abib. Moses did not use names of months. Abib is the name of the season, the harvest. So I just want to give clarity with that. All right. Thank you for the questions. And family, those are the type of questions we should be asking. This is the type of discussions we should be having when we're doing teachings like this versus being way out in left field with some of the comments. All right. So that's why moderators, if people coming in trying to troll, trying to disrupt, kick them out. This is the stuff that we should be discussing. All right. So when we break down this calendar, right, when I actually reconstructed the very first calendar, the very first calendar year of Israel, according to Torah, according to the holy text, right, we see the 10th fell on a Shabbat, right? The 14th, that was the Passover and day of preparation. But the 10th is when they would select their lamb. But then when we fast forward, I also proved that the day of the lynching of Hamashiach was on the 14th. The very next day was a high holy day, which was the first day of the unleavened bread. And then 2 days later, we had another Shabbat. So when you study the text from the Greek, you'll see the word Sabbaton. And Sabbaton will tell you plural. But anyway, and as I pointed out, on the 10th day would be the day that the lamb was selected. So on the 10th day, and we saw in Ezekiel that I highlighted the new year, right? The first day, I mean, it says the Rosh Hashanah or Ba Ra'ash Ha-Shana. And we saw the 10th day there highlighted of that what? New year. But anyway, so when we fast forward to the calendar year today, 2023, and I explained this, so I encourage you guys to watch that lesson. I'm not going to explain the formula is pretty simple when you go through the entire lesson. I teach you how to calculate the days, and you can create your own calendars. You don't have to wait for me to create it because I gave you the blueprint. So remember, the first day of Israel's calendar is the first new moon. The new moon, that simple partial little piece of that new moon, that's Israel's first day of the new year. But anyway, so again, we have the first month, and I think this is based upon, got to remember, I believe this is based upon 2021 actually. Yeah. This is based on 2021 calendar. So I didn't update this here. So this is a little off here. So my apologies. I don't even want to get into these days because this is a little off, because this is based upon the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, and I didn't put the calculations here. So I'm not even going to go into this here, but I should have updated that calendar. I didn't have time to update the calendar. So disregard that. That's actually the calendar, the holidays, the feast days rather, that is based off of 2021, not 2023. I did not make any adjustments to this calendar, which I should have. So my apologies, family. We disregard that month. But let me show you something here. How important is the seventh month? How important is it? Right? How important is the seventh month? Well, when we go to Genesis chapter 8, verse 3, starting at verse 3, this is what it says. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the water were abated. Right? Verse 4. And the ark rested, knock, in the seventh month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. So we see the ark rested in the seventh month on the 17th day of the seventh month. This is not a new year. Okay. So the ark rested, knock, right? Here's the Hebrew definition of the word knock, right? The ancient pronunciation, right? Not nuach, but the ancient pronunciation is actually knock. And this is what the actual word and letters that you would see inside Torah. Okay. So it says here to rest, an example, settle down, right? To dwell, stay, give comfort, cease, let. So the ark rested on Mount Ararat. It was no longer floating on the water. It was no longer moving. It was stationary on this mount. So it means quiet, be quiet, because when you're dealing with that type of structure, there's going to be a lot of noise with it, especially when you're dealing with the water, the waves, the rocking. So you're going to hear a lot of movement in it. So here it rested on this mount, and it means quiet, be quiet, remain, set down, make quiet. So the word, ancient Hebrew word is knock. Now I know you see here it says nuach, and again, I'm not going to get into the ancient Hebrew letters, but I could tell you for sure that there was no O sounds and there was no U sounds in ancient Hebrew. So let me just play this short loop clip, because I got to bring this out every now and then, because again, there was no O sounds and there was no U sounds in ancient Hebrew. There were some other things I could point out too, but let me play this clip real quick.
Here's a chart that summarizes vowel class and length. And you can see across the top the three classes, A, E, and U. And then down the side the four lengths, long, medium, short, and very short. So let's just go over this chart. We'll start with the A class vowels. The long vowel is cholam vav, and you'll recall that this says O as in snow. Now you might wonder why an O vowel is in the A class, and this is because of historical considerations. Originally there was no O sound in Hebrew.
There was no O sound in ancient Hebrew. So if someone come to you saying Elohim, that's not the proper pronunciation of it. But I'm not making it a big deal of it, because all of us, guess what? We have to start somewhere. We all trying to get this thing right. At least I will say most of us. But there was no O sounds. If there was no O sounds, that means that nuach is an incorrect pronunciation. Right? The sharuk, which makes the U sound. That's not part of the ancient Hebrew. But anyway, so the ancient word is knock. All right? Almost like the word knock, but knock. Okay? So knock. Give me clarity what the scripture says. And the ark settled down, gave comfort, was made to be quiet. It rested. Knock. Okay? So this is, and again, disregard, this is, we'll just go off of what we have in front of us, all right? Because I don't want, I didn't get a chance to recalculate this And also my apologies, but we'll just go off of this. I tried to change this, but I forgot to change the overall adjustments of the days that you see here. But for now, we're just going to use the 2021. Actually, that's why it says 2021. So I didn't make any adjustments here. So this is the 2021 calendar, right? So this is based off of that calendar. I didn't update it for this year, so my apologies. So we're just going to go off of the 2021 calendar. So according to the seventh month, right, the first day of the seventh month fell on of 2021 actually fell on October 9th, 2021, right? Sunset was on the 8th. All right, not getting into all that, but the blowing of the trumpets, the first day of what? The seventh month is when the blowing of the trumpets take place. Then we see here on the 17th day of the month, as we gave scripture, the ark rested on the 17th day. So I just want to still give you the illustration. So here's another Hebrew word that transliterates to the phrase be quiet. So we see knock, still, also quiet. But you guys hear me say this word, karash, whenever I quote Exodus chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, they will not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. You're not going to see the word shalom there. Some of you guys will say shalom. Again, I'm not getting into all of that. What you will see there is this ancient word that's on your screen, karash, which means be quiet. So let's go ahead and give the full definition of this word, karash. Let's see what it says. To scratch, to be silent, to let alone, to be deaf, cease. Right? Be quiet. That's the key. Be quiet. Keep silent. Speak not a word. Be still. Hold tongue. Family, this, we're the people of the book, because the Most High had to place this point of emphasis to us a number of times. We just don't know how to be quiet. We really don't understand the importance of being silent. Calculated silence is what I use sometimes. All right. So speak not a word, be still, hold tongue. So let's go to Genesis chapter 8, starting at verse 3, tying this all together, right? Actually, this 14. I should have changed that slide. So we're going to actually Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. I already gave you the answer. I already explained this, but I'm going to read it to you again. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Verse 14, Yahweh shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And you see the Hebrew word karash, in other words, be quiet. Okay, so let's deal with this word, this phrase rather, the power of peace be still. Let me give you clarity on the power of peace be still. And this is the phrase karash nak. Let me give you the power of peace be still. Let's go to Mark chapter 4, verse 39 through 40. The power of peace be still. And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, peace be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? In other words, aman is the Hebrew word. In other words, aman means faith, trust, consistency, being permanent, going to the right hand. So the Messiah sits at the right hand. The high priest, the high priest like Aaron, those guys, guess what? They went to the right hand of the Father to make atonement for the people. Their right hand is important. All right. Israel understood the importance of the right hand of the Most High. So, and he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, peace be still. Karash knock. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? How is it that you have no trust, no belief, no consistency, understanding the power of going to the right hand? So not only did the Most High had to rebuke, the Messiah had to rebuke the wind, he also had to rebuke and correct his disciples. So how important is the seventh month? Let's go to Genesis chapter 2, starting at verse 1. Let's look at the second month. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished. Right? So going back here, right? Asking the question, how important is the seventh month? Right? Let's start with the seventh day. I want to deal with the Shabbat because the seventh month, because the Shabbat could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it can actually be a year because you had a Shabbat year for the land to rest. Thus, the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended his work, which he had made, and he rested, Shabbat, on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed Barak the seventh day and sanctified it, Quadash, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. So when we look at the Hebrew definition of the Shabbat, right? Notice what it says: desist from exertion. In other words, working for ourselves, cease. But notice this one word you really don't hear many talk about, because the Shabbat is now just all about us resting to ourselves, easing, taking it easy for that day. No, it also means to celebrate. It's a corporate celebration. Every Shabbat is a corporate celebration of us celebrating together the Most High. So the Shabbat not only means to stop working, cease from what you were doing for yourself, and use this day to acknowledge the Most High, celebrate. Okay, so the Hebrew definition of blessed, as I covered it here, Barak, kneel down. It says to kneel, to bless the Most High as an act of adoration, and vice versa, man as a benefit. It says also to congratulate. So family, when you see, and many take it out of context, Christ never said that he is our Shabbat rest. Now I have to go back and do another lesson on that, dealing with Hebrews. A lot of Christian pastors will teach that false doctrine, going back to Deuteronomy chapter 7, because if the Messiah even said that, then guess what? The Messiah would be changing Yah's words. And the Messiah made it clear in John chapter 7. He said, the doctrines that I teach is not of my own, is of the one who sent me. So he never changed the Shabbat, but he gave clarity, said the Shabbat was made for man, not man for the Shabbat. In other words, the Shabbat, as we see that first letter, the Shan, right? The Shan, it means teeth, it means tool. So the Shabbat is a tool for us, right? To rest these bodies and also to celebrate. Celebration worship is the greatest stress relief. So the ark rested on the seventh day. The seventh month, the 17th day. All right. So to kneel, to bless the Most High. All right. Kneel down, praise, salute. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you guys get the gist of what this means. And then when we look at sanctified, this is what sanctify means, right? Quadash, it means clean, consecrate, dedicate. Wait a minute. So we had dedication from the very beginning. We have a dedication, kanak, from the very beginning, training from the very beginning, dedication, right? Ordination. This is the Most High set up an ordination service right at the beginning for this particular day. Clean, consecrate, dedicate, keep, proclaim, purify, sanctify, right? But then when we go to this letter, this is the seventh letter of the Hebrew Aleph Bayat. Some would say Aleph Bet, that's the Israeli pronunciation. But this is what is called the Zayin. The Zayin, that's the actual letter here, right? It means weapon, numerical value 7. And as you see here, this is the pictograph of what? The Zion. So the Shabbat, as we see, is also a weapon. Because remember, family, a key weapon that all of Israel was promised in Exodus chapter, I believe it was chapter 34, either chapter 34 or chapter 31, where the Most High said that the Shabbat is a sign between he and his people. Come on, family. Come on, family. The Shabbat is a weapon. We need that rest. We need to celebrate the Most High because it's clear the scripture tells us that the Most High occupies our praise. He occupies our worship. He inhabits our praise. He inhabits our worship. That's the greatest weapon we can ever have. Anyway, let me stop. Let me continue. Get a little excited here. Matter of fact, here it is, Exodus chapter 31, verse 14 through 18. And it says this: Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily, my Shabbat ye shall keep, shamar. In other words, not just keep, but execute, shamar. For it is a sign, awath or off, between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Yahweh, that doeth sanctify you. Verse 14, ye shall keep. This is not an option. Ye shall keep. We didn't need a temple to honor the Shabbat. They didn't have a temple at this time. Ye shall keep. Therefore, it is holy. Adam didn't have a tabernacle. Adam didn't have a temple when he honored the Shabbat. Ye shall keep the Shabbat. Therefore, it is holy unto you. Don't worry about what the other nations are trying to tell you is holy or not holy. It's holy for us. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that so shall be cut off from among his people. In other words, people, like I think I explained, I believe it's Numbers chapter 15, when the man called himself going out and doing work on the Shabbat. When I read it and taught on it months ago, when I was dealing with the calendar, it was dealing with a man that was purposely going out in front of the people to rebel against the Most High. That's the full context of the text. Not some innocent man. The man purposely, the scripture tells you about someone that has a divisive spirit trying to provoke the Most High. But the Most High understands he's not a robot. He understands there's grace that come with the territory. There's certain exceptions. Like I would use the term situational exceptions. Like David and his soldiers traveled to the temple and they ate the shewbread. That was a situational exception by the high priest. Ye shall keep the Shabbat, therefore it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Verse 15, 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Shabbat of rest, holy to Yahweh. Whosoever doeth any work on the Shabbat day, he shall surely be put to death. Verse 16, wherefore the children of Israel shall keep this Shabbat to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant, right? It is a sign. That's where I wanted to get to. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. What's some of the signs that occurred on the Shabbat? The resurrection of the Messiah on the Shabbat. The Messiah revealing himself when he transfigured in front of his disciples occurred on the Shabbat. The Shabbat is a sign. It's proof. It's evidence. All right. And we see here, and he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, 2 tables of stone, written with the fingers of Elohim. He wrote this himself. So why wouldn't you want to honor these 10 commandments? There's other commandments, but why wouldn't you want to honor the things that the Most High wrote down with his own finger? Anyway, so let's now transition over to giving clarity for the blowing of the trumpets, right? I want to kind of walk you guys through. I know I gave you a lot of information, but I really wanted to set the tone. I really want to set the tone. So now that we have the tone set, we know that Rosh Hashanah, we know that that is an absolute lie, right? That is not Israel's New Year. So I want to start off with this thought: all men are liars. I'm sure all you guys had this thought before. This is coming from the 116th book of Psalms, verse 9. This is David's thoughts here because he was dealing with a lot of craziness from many from his own people and from opposition. He says, I will walk before Yahweh in the land of the living. I believe, therefore have I spoken. I was greatly afflicted. I said in my haste, like we all have said at the height of being frustrated, all men are liars. So let's look at the definition of the word walk, because if we go back here, right, I will walk before Yahweh. So David is dealing with walk. What is walk? All right, to walk, behave self. So David is saying, I'm going to behave myself. These Negroes got me wanting to go off, but I got to say this to you, Most High. Man, all these Negroes, all these people are just straight liars. Right? David is saying, I'm going to behave myself, but I got to say this, Most High. I got to say this, Yah. All these men are liars. So to walk, behave self, come continually, on continually, depart, enter, exercise self. I'm telling you, man, you have to have some self-discipline through the Holy Spirit and discernment to be able to refrain, to say, I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to behave myself. I know I'm hearing all kinds of crazy stuff. I know I'm hearing all kinds of rumors about me. I know that I'm hearing people trying to tear down my reputation. I know people at work is trying to sabotage my position. I know people in the temple trying to do, you have to say, you know what? I'm going to behave myself. You know what? I'm going to cast my cares to you, the Most High, even though these people are liars, man, right? Grow, lead, march. Move, quiet, right? Spread, wander. So the Hebrew definition of liars, real quick, right? It says here to lie, liar, lie, lying, be in vain, found a liar. Okay. So when we go to verse 12 through 14, real quick, it says this: what shall I render unto Yahweh for all his benefits towards me? I will take the cup of salvation and call upon the name of Yahweh. I will pay my vows unto Yahweh now in the presence of all his people. We got to remind ourselves, right? We got to remind ourselves. It's all about the Most High. So let's now deal with the blowing of the trumpets. Let's start with Leviticus chapter 23, verse 23. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, Mashah, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall ye have a Shabbat, a memorial, Zakar of blowing of the trumpets, Tharawayah, and holy convocation. So we see here the blowing of the trumpets is saying to have a what? Shabbat for the what? Blowing of the trumpets. So when is the blowing of the trumpets? When is it? I'm not going to go into this calendar because again, my calendar is off. All right. But the next part, addition to this lesson, I'll map out the calendars and I'll give you the exact date. But it's really this year, the day falls right in alignment with one of the regular calendars. Last year it didn't. The year before last it didn't. But this year, everything lines up for this year. Not saying next year, but just for this year. So let's look at memorial. What does memorial mean? Notice what it says. A memorial record, right? Record. We are witnesses, Ida, right? So that means that witness means to record. So we are to make what? A record, record, remind, remember that we have to honor the blowing of the trumpets. So Zakar Wan simply means reminder. So a memorial of blowing the trumpets. Now let's deal with the word blowing real quick. It says here, right? Joy or a battle cry. Let me say that again. Y'all better grab hold of this right here, family. See, when we deal with the blowing of the trumpets, see, as a community, we are in spiritual warfare right now. We actually at the height of spiritual warfare. I'm not sure if you guys really realize this. We are at the height of spiritual warfare right now. Hasatan is using his messengers, his own so-called prophets, his own so-called people to do what? Let out a battle cry. But guess what? Israel, our day of trumpets, right? The blowing of the trumpets, it's as it says here, it's an acclamation of joy, but also says, or a battle cry. Family, Hasatan has been letting out his battle cry. When are we going to start letting out our battle cries? See, we got too many people within this awakening. We got too many people within our community that have no clue about what it means to go to war. I've been on that battlefield. When I say on the battlefield, I'm a soldier. I've been over there. I've been in wartime situations. So we have to understand discernment, because the blowing of the trumpet, when you blow the trumpet, there's different sounds. And I got my brother here, Asap Ban Yahawada. He's watching right now. He did a great job. And matter of fact, I'm gonna have him do another lesson. Bring that lesson back out. He didn't know it yet, but I'm gonna have him bring that lesson back out that he taught last year about the blowing of the trumpets, the different sounds. Did a great job with that. But we have to understand that there's certain sounds for us to celebrate. There's certain sounds for us to rally and understand that we are at war. The problem is most of you guys are thinking that we are in peacetime situation. We are at war, family. We are at war. We are at war. We are at war. You see the wars that are happening before you right now. We are at war. So we see joy or battle cry, clangor of trumpets. As we see here, alarm, joy, jubilee, loud noise, rejoicing, shouting. All right. So Tharawaya simply is an acclamation of joy expressed by rejoicing with a high, joyful shout. The blowing of the trumpets is a reminder, right, to express a reminder, Zakar Wan, to express our appreciation to Yah through a highly joyful shout. But it also means a battle cry. Let's go to the 83rd book of Psalms. I'm going to bring this all together. Family, because family, we have to understand we are at war. Yes, we pray, but guess what? We have to come out of prayer and go into war. The Most High had to slap Job around a little bit with the word. Told him to get off his knees and be a man. Like, all right, you've been praying all this time. Get up off their knees. It's time for you to put your prayers to action. Walk this thing out. It's one thing to pray, but you have to put the work behind it. Anyway, the 83rd book of Psalms, chapter 1, right? Notice what it says. Keep not thou silence, O Elohim. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Elohim. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. That's the key word there, Hama. That's the Hebrew word that you'll find there. We'll define it here in a second. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. And family, this is another thing that's a pet peeve of mine. We keep focusing on Esau. So when did Esau become a crafty counsel all by himself? It's more than to this crafty counsel than Esau. Read the rest of this scripture. Read the rest of this chapter. We're so fixated on Esau while we got other people that's part of this council sabotaging this walk right now. You see the Moabites, right? I'm not sure if you guys know it. The Moors They say that they are descendants of Moabites. They say that they are basically descendants of Lot and his daughters. Aren't they some of the enemies of Israel, part of this crafty council, the Ishmaelites and all that? So, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Now, notice you see that word head, right? The Hebrew word there would be ra'ash, or in the Israeli, resh. In other words, protocol, the top rank. All right. So let's define this word tumult, right? As we see here, hama, it means to make a loud sound. So we see the enemy is making a loud sound. In other words, a battle cry. By implication, to be in great commotion or tumult, to rage war. Or have they not raged war on our community? They've been raging war in our community for centuries upon centuries. To rage war, sound, be in an uproar. So tumult means war cry. Let's go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of this word. It says here, a cry used by a body of fighters, but the entry number 2 is key. A slogan used especially to rally people to a cause. Do we not see people rallying to a cause? Do we not see people rallying to a cause? Whatever lies that they want to make up about our community, that's rallying people to a cause to do what? Come against each other, to cause a further divide among Yah's people. They're rallying. It's not just the rally cries that you would see with these racial slogans. They're using all kinds of slogans and words and bywords to cause division among Yah's people. And the problem is, so many don't want to acknowledge that because, hey, we so big on showing partial, should I say, favoritism, to particular, certain peoples because they may speak a certain way. You like the way that they speak. They may look a certain way. They may have a certain tone of their voice. They may have this and they may have that. But family, you got to pay attention. Turn your discernment on. That's why, hey, vet what I'm teaching you. Don't just get caught up in me being a geek. Hey, that's why I show sources so you could properly vet. And if I'm saying anything out of context, you guys have the discernment to say, hey, I think Pastor misspoke here. No, family, we can't sit here and just listen to people because they sound good. Anyway, all right, war cry. So here's a sample of a war cry. Slavery in the Catholic Church. I'm not going to go too deep in this. You guys know I touch on this from time to time, but let me show you how they wage war on our people. Papal grants to the kings of Portugal, giving authority to enslave the Saracens and other non-Christians of West Africa. Notice this line right here. I'm going to zoom in. What does it say? Christendom is at war. But it's amazing how we've been hacked as a people. We have been institutionalized so bad that I can show you this and show you that they have declared war. They, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, all of these religious systems have declared war against us. But many of our brothers and sisters that say, well, those are not real Christians. What? They are not what? They are not real Christians. They got Bibles in their hand. They got theologians. They got all this stuff. They weren't real Christians, but many of you guys are still using their theologies. Still using their theologies. If they weren't real Christians, well, why are you using their theologies? Why are you still going to many of the cemeteries that they created? See, that is, we've been hacked. We've been wired. The transatlantic so-called slave trade is actually the transatlantic world war. The sub-Saharan slave trade was actually a sub-Saharan war. Papal grants to the kings of Portugal was given authority to enslave Saracens and non-Christian and other non-Christians of West Africa with whom Christendom is at war. 1452 through 1514 and 1442, a Portuguese captain brought to the Gold Coast some Moorish prisoners of war, exchanged them for 10 Negro slaves, and brought these back to Lisbon. A trading settlement was established at Lagos by 1444. It would appear that by 1452, the Portuguese were anxious to establish their property rights over their newly discovered West African territory. And so Pope Nicholas V, Pope Nicholas, that's right, Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, Papa Nicholas V was approached and was apparently led to believe that these territories of the Guinea coast were inhabited by Saracens and other enemies of Christendom. There is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. Let me say that again. Applied the well-known contemporary rules of war to the situation in West Africa, whereas the Portuguese were well aware the local Negro inhabitants were not Saracens, they were not Muslims, they were not enemies of Christendom. Come on, family. So let's go back to the 83rd book of Psalms, chapter 3. And again, I'm not trying to throw shade on any of our brothers and sisters that are inside Christianity, that are inside Catholicism, that is inside Judaism. I'm going at the doctrine. I'm going at these religious systems. Going after those systems. The Messiah didn't create Christianity. The Messiah didn't create Catholicism. The Messiah didn't create Judaism. The Messiah didn't create Islam. The Messiah didn't create denominations and all these different things. The Messiah said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. The early followers, the early Hebrew Israelite followers of the Messiah was referred to as the way. The followers of who? The way. Followers of the way. Who's the way? The Messiah. Paul, follower of the way, highlighted in Acts. And Paul never addressed himself as a Christian in any of his letters. Because if that's the case, why don't we see it, the entry all through what is called the New Testament? Why do we only see it 3 times? And it wasn't something that was created by the early followers of the Messiah. Anyway, let me get out of that. Let me get out of that. Let me get out of that. I know I already know you're going to have people going chop shop on this video anyway. They're going to hack away and come up with different clips and say, "Look, Pastor Kelly, I told you, he's not a Christian." That's right, I'm not a Christian. Well, I told you, he said he's not a Christian. That's right. When I did that Black Lives Matter message, guess what? Initially, I called myself a Christian Hebrew. A Hebrew Christian pastor. That's why I refer to myself, a Hebrew Christian pastor. But guess what? I grew a lot since then. I'm not embracing those titles that was created by the very people that was murdering the Israelites, the very people that sacked Jerusalem. I'm not using that title. Those same people, the same descendants of those people now have what? Enslaved our people and still enslaving our people? So they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Crafty counsel, they, plural, have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. We the hidden ones, family. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name nation, cut them off from being a nation. What is a nation? What is the pillars of a nation? You'll see this all through Exodus chapter 10, land, family, and tongues, that the name Sham, that's the reputation. That's what it means. Sham means reputation. It means character. So the reputation of Israel may be no more in remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent. Akkad, consulted together with one consent. They are confederate. They are bayat. They are in alliance against thee. Barayath, in the Israeli barit. Right? But Barayath in the ancient Hebrew, they are in confederate against thee. They are in constitution. I just gave you the definition of this Hebrew word, but as you see here, in the ancient Barayat, in the Israeli Bari, and you see here, confederacy, confederate, covenant, league, alliance, pledge. But notice what you see in the backdrop here. Constitution. Constitution. All right. Coincidence that in the initial Constitution, right? We weren't listed there. That Constitution wasn't written for us. We were property. We fell up under, I believe it's either 4 or 5 as property. Anyway, confederate means covenant. 10 kingdoms came together. Notice what I say, 10 kingdoms. The 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet that points to salvation is the Yod. 10 kingdoms came together and created a covenant to destroy Israel. Who are they? Who are they? I'm not going to get into it, but you see, read the rest of that text. You'll see the 10 kingdoms there. Joshua chapter 6, starting at verse 4. Notice what it says here. And 7 priests, right? 7 priests, Shabbai or Shabai, priests, Kahan Yam or Kohanim, right? 7 priests shall bear the ark before 7 trumpets, right? Shawapar or Shapar, you guys would say in the Israeli shofar, right? Wath, that's the plural, right? Shawapar or Shapar, Wath, a ram's horns, right? And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. The priest shall blow the quai with the trumpets, Shapar or Shawapar, Wath. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast, notice this, it says when they make what? A long blast. Now we just identified one of the sounds. We just identified one of the sounds. So it says when they make a long blast, right? Long blast with the ram's Yawabal horn, Quaran, and when ye hear, that's right, Quaran, that's a whole nother discussion dealing with the 4 carpenters in Zechariah. It's a whole nother discussion, right? But anyway, Quaran, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, Shapar or Shawapar, all the people shall shout with a great Gadawal or Gadal shout, Tharawaya. Let me read it again. And it shall come to pass. So Israel's getting instructions here. There's a particular blast, a particular sound that's going to have all the people have to listen for it. And then once they hear that, then they're going to what? Follow up with a shout. And it came to pass that when we look at the time here, because I can't go too long, rather, because I do have to get up in the morning. So we'll go a little bit longer. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout. Let me say that again. So this is the plan. They're getting the instructions. When Israel hear the long sound coming from the horn, coming from the shofar or shapar, and the Israeli shofar, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. So here's that wall, right? Right? This letter is the Kath. It means wall. It means divide. As you see here, Kath, wall, divide. Numerical value is 8. So let's look at this word trumpet real quick. This is, oh man, we getting ready to get into some really some really good stuff here, right? We see here a coronet, curved horn, right? Trumpet. Okay, so all the people shall shout with a great shout. So let's go to verse 16, right? We saw the instructions. Now Israel is following the instructions. And it came to pass at the 7th. Wait a minute. Didn't I just say to you that the number 7, the 7th letter is the the Zion, aren't they in war right now? So it is what? A weapon. So now we see that their shout is a weapon. The shofar, that long blast, that long sound is what? Part of that war cry. Oh, I hope y'all grab a hold of this. And it came to pass at the seventh time. Remember what we said, celebrate, right? Anyway, the seventh time when the priest blew with the trumpets, Sharpar Wath or Shawapar Wath, Joshua said unto the people, Joshua, Yahweh Shai, because Joshua had the same name as the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, some of you guys would say Yeshua. Joshua said unto the people, shout Rayah or Rayai, for Yahweh has given you the city. Told the people to shout. Now let's look at this definition of this word shout. Let's see what it says here, right? Of course, there was no ooh sounds, but we're not going to get into all that. But it says to split the ears. Oh my goodness. Do y'all understand what's happening here? So when you shout, you are supposed to shout out your war cry that will split the ears of the adversary. And when we see split the ears, that means to burst their eardrums, which is going to throw off their equilibrium. It's going to throw off their balance. The problem is when we deal with social media, our people are so busy watching, but they're not shouting. Our people are so busy trying to be divided. But if we understood, if we came together as a community and let out one shout, do you know that would split the ears of the enemy? That would split the ears of confusion. That would split the ears of the oppression that we continue to have to deal with. That will split the ears of this deception that's going on out here. That will split the spirit of this trolling. That will split this spirit. It will split the ears. It will throw it completely off balance. To split the ears. In other words, this is a war cry, a shout, blow an alarm, destroy, make a joyful noise, sound an alarm, give a blast. So every last one of you guys have a shofar, or shawapar, whatever words you want to use. Every last one of you guys have a horn. So what is the problem, Israel? Why are we keep going over and over again, majoring in the minors? How come we have to continuously be so divided, especially when we getting to the feast days? Have you ever noticed it's always foolishness that want to rise up when we get closer and closer to the feast days? Have you ever noticed that the foolishness always occurs? Many of it occurs on the Shabbat to make sure that you don't celebrate, to make sure you don't celebrate the Shabbat. Instead of focusing on celebrating the Most High, you are so busy watching who said what, when they said what, how they said what, but you not letting out what? Your shout to split the ears of this confusion. Come on, family. I know I'm sounding a little preachy tonight. So what? So what? To split the ears, shout, blow an alarm, destroy, make a joyful noise, sound an alarm, give a blast. Your shout is not predicated on whether or not you have a voice that sound good to the naked ear. The Most High don't care about that. He wants you to make a joyful noise, a shout that's going to split the ears of cancer. That's going to split the ears of alcohol abuse. That's going to split the ears of low self-esteem. That's going to split the ears of drug abuse. That's going to split the ears of that lying spirit. That's going to split the ears of that thief, that troll. So Ra Ya'ai, that's the actual word that's in the ancient Hebrew. Ra Ya'ai or Raya means to split the ears with sound, make a joyful noise, triumph. Oh my goodness, man. I hope y'all grabbed a hold of this. Let's go to the 47th book of Psalms, verse 1. You guys know this passage. So this is just kind of giving you an example of what it means. Oh, clap your hands, all ye people. Shout, Raya. We just dealt with that word. Raya or Raya. We just dealt with that word. Shout so loud that you're going to split the ears of the adversary unto Elohim with a what? A voice of triumph. Come on, family. Rana, voice of triumph. So the importance of the shofar, right? We see the letters here, right? Teeth, tool, right? Mouth, instructions, command, head, top, rank, beginning. To when you make that shout, remember it's splitting the ears. So that shofar or that shapawar or that shofar, it's a tool. Mouth, instructions, command. I command my hands to praise Yah. You got to start commanding. You got to start speaking life. Death and life is in the power of what? The tongue. Head, top rank, beginning. That means that we following the protocols of the Most High. We are not in the state of confusion. Come on, family. I just broke down the word for you. So the trumpet was made of hammered silver, right? So no one knows exactly how they were shaped, but it is generally felt that they were long, straight pipes with a flared opening at the end. Okay, but anyway, they could be blown to make different sounds or signals. So when we go to Numbers chapter 10, starting at verse 3, and when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So here, when they hear that blow, right, this is a particular blow telling Israel to what? Come together. It's a call to worship, to come to what? The tabernacle, to come, assemble themselves. Quahal is the word that you will see here. Quahal, assemble themselves. And if they blow out, if they blow but with one trumpet, then the princes, which are the heads of the thousands of Israel, shall gather themselves unto thee. When ye blow an alarm, then the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. So this is a different sound. So that means the people had to know the sounds as well, not just the leaders. When ye blow an alarm the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journey, and they shall blow an alarm for for their journey. So there's different sounds. That's why Christ said, my sheep know my voice and answers to another. They know that sound of that shofar. That they know the sounds of every word that's coming out of his word, out of his mouth through the Most High. Man should not live by bread alone, by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Yah, so a man live. That's quoting out of Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2. The Messiah quoted that as well. But when the congregation is to be gathered together, ye shall blow, but ye shall not sound an alarm. And the sons of Aaron the priest shall blow with the trumpets, and they shall be to you for an ordinance for ever throughout your generations. So there were three different general purposes for the trumpets. We're about to wrap this up. There were three general purposes for the trumpet. Purpose number one, the trumpets were used to call the whole community of believers for general assembly, to come together to worship, as I just highlighted. But Jeremiah chapter 4, starting at verse 4, gives us an example of this. Notice what it says: circumcise yourself to Yahweh and take away the foreskins of your heart. Now we're dealing with a circumcision of the heart. Wait a minute, this way before we get to chapter 31. Wait a minute, a circumcision of the heart? Didn't Moses prophesy a circumcision of the heart in Deuteronomy chapter 30? Didn't Moses also say that Israel, even though they practiced the physical circumcision, said that they still needed to circumcise their heart in Deuteronomy chapter 10? So we see here in Jeremiah chapter 4, circumcise yourself to Yahweh. They were already circumcised. They were honoring the law of circumcision. But here's the kicker: and take away the foreskins of your heart, ye men of Judah. Men of Judah. Well, this is dealing with Judah, the tribe. This is also dealing with the Benjamites, right? And later the Levitical priests, but the Levitical priests primarily dwelt in Jerusalem, but they were scattered abroad among the tribes. But ye men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem, that's the remnant of all the tribes dwelled there. There was always a remnant of all the 12 tribes in Jerusalem. Lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Verse 5. Oh, excuse me. Did I reach verse 5? I forgot to put. Did I put verse 5? Oh, you know what? I put verse 6 instead. But guess what? We got verse 5 right here. I'll read it from the back. It says, declare you in Judah and publish in Jerusalem and say, blow your trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into the to the defense cities, right? And I'm gonna break this down real quick because I don't want anyone to misinterpret this scripture. This is not telling us to go to Africa. That's not what this is saying here. All right. And I'm gonna break down the scripture here, but it says, declare, verse 5, declare you in Judah and publish in Jerusalem and say, blow you the trumpet in the land, cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into the defense cities. Right. And then when we get to verse 6, because I thought I had verse 5 here, but my apologies. Verse 6, set up the standard toward Zion, retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north. This is dealing with the Babylonians, the Babylonian invasion here, and a great destruction. So let me break it down real quick. The coming day of Yahweh, at that time, judgment will be one alarm, a terrifying day that must be sounded forth as we breaking down that text. But we do know that there's some blowing of the horns when we read the book of Revelation. But just breaking down Jeremiah 4 that we just highlighted, in the days of Jeremiah, the watchman will blow the trumpet to announce a state of emergency, warning the people of some approaching danger. It was a call for the people to flee behind the walls of the fortified city. Now, Jeremiah must proclaim the message of Yah's coming judgment as the watchman. He must sound the trumpet and warn the people. This is not sounding the trumpet to warn the people about the people. This is to sound the trumpet to saying, hey, you got an attack that's coming on the forefront from what? The adversaries, from these different nations that want to invade them. They were already on alert about in fear of or anticipating the invasion of the Babylonians. Since the people had refused to repent of their sins, Jeremiah warned them to flee. In other words, get behind those gates, get behind the walls, right? Fortify yourselves. For Yahweh was ready to execute judgment against them. He was ready to bring a terrifying disaster upon them from the north, right? Yahweh would appoint a nation from the north, in other words, Babylon, to be his agent of judgment. Babylon will bring terrible destruction on the people because of their sins and their rejection of Yahweh and his holy commandments. The invading army would be like a lion coming out of its den, stalk its prey. In other words, stalking its prey. It would utterly destroy the land and cities of Judah, including the capital, Jerusalem itself. When the day of Yahweh's terrifying judgment came, the people would mourn due to the fierce anger of Yahweh. And so Yahweh's anger would not be turned away. Number 2, right? The trumpets were used to call only the leaders together. Only one trumpet was used to signal the leaders. We already gave that example and read the scriptures, right? Let's go to the third purpose. The trumpet were used to signal the tribes when to begin marching. We already gave that example as well with scripture. One blast signaled the tribes on the east to march. Another blast signaled the tribes on the south to march. Exodus chapter 19, verse 1. I want to cover this real quick. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So in the 3rd month, Israel was given what many call the Mosaic covenant, right? Which is also called the law, or the law of Yahweh, or the law of Moses. These laws were already in existence, family, well in advance, but I want to be clear. But at this time, Israel, this generation of people were now the covenant was being handed down to them, from Abraham to them, right? The covenant was the covenant that was given to Israel is the same covenant that was given to Abraham, right? Genesis chapter 17, verse 7 proves this. Notice what it says: and I will establish my covenant between me, thee, and thy seed after thee in their generation, for an everlasting covenant, to be a Elohim unto thee and to thy seed after thee. So the covenant was handed to Abraham. So those 10 commandments were already in existence before Israel was even birthed. It's the same covenant because the covenant is the 10 commandments. So I want to be clear on that. So why is this significant? It was time for Israel to mature. It was time for Israel to grow up. Family, it's time for us to grow up, family. It's time for us to grow up. It's time for us to really start understanding the importance of discernment. It's time for us to grow up, family. It's time for us to grow up, family. Let me say that again. It's time for us to grow up. Are we going to go a few more minutes? We almost finished this anyway. So I want to give shout outs to, before we wrap this up, Sean Thompson. Thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate the love and support. Family, let's show some love and support for Sean Thomas. Really appreciate it. Again, let me put your name back up here. Appreciate it, Sean. Long time no here, but appreciate you for the contributions tonight. All right, family. We're wrapping this up. We have just a little while. I mean, just a couple more slides to go. We're almost there. All right. We're almost there. It's time for Israel to grow up. But I want to introduce you to this letter here. This is the Gamal, right? Numerical value is 3, right? It means sustained, weaned, maturity, complete. That's what the Gamal means. Sustained, weaned, maturity, complete. And that's why we see this hump, right? It means maturity, right? That hump. Okay. But let me give you quick clarity on this, because I know every time I post a thank you for the birthday shout outs, we always have a handful of people that want to say, come in and troll. And hey, I thought Israel not supposed to celebrate their birthday. Israel not supposed to celebrate their born day. That is paganism and all that other stuff. Let me show you something about the Gamal. Gamal means to wean. The numerical value is 3. Let me go back here just so you guys can see that. It means weaned, sustained, weaned, maturity, complete. Numerical value is 3. So let me give you a little source here. This is coming from the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament, volume 3, page 26. It says this about the Gamal. I'm not going to read it all, but just giving you an understanding of the word. It says, speaking of the relationship between mother and child, it means to wean the child from its mother's milk. It gives an example here of Isaiah 28, verse 9, of weaning the child from its mother's milk, which was done at the end of a nursing period about 3 years. According to ancient Near East customs, we also have an example of this in 2 Maccabees chapter 7, verse 27, as is shown by the threefold Adah, as soon as until ka ashar, when. But the key is, let's go down here. I don't want to get into all that, but it gives us an example. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 22 through 24. This is dealing with Abraham having a feast day for his son Isaac, who was being weaned at his 3rd birthday from the date that he was born. He was having a feast day in honor and celebrating that. Now, of course, that got hijacked by the Jewish community, as we know them, because they call this the bar mitzvah and the bath mitzvah. The bar for the boys, the bath for the girls. And I believe it's either at the age of 10 or 11, of them making that transition. Right now, it was the age of 3 being weaned. So weaned was done on a fixed date. This is regarded as the conclusion of the first phase of childhood. I didn't put it all in there, but anyway, you get the gist of it. Abraham had a feast day, a feast for his son Isaac on his 3rd birthday. Hannah dedicated Samuel to the temple and gave gifts to the temple on his 3rd birthday. There's not a sin in honoring and celebrating your birthday. It's what you do on it that makes it a sin. All right. I just thought I'd share that. Exodus chapter 19, verse 16. Notice what it says here. It says, and it came to pass on the 3rd day in the morning, still the 3rd, maturity. We're in the 3rd month, but now here it is, the 3rd day, maturity. And there was a were thunders, qualoth, and lightnings, Barak Yam, right? And a thick cloud, Anan, upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet, Shapar, right? We hear the trumpet. We see the trumpet here. We see this loud shout, exceeding loud, right? Kazak, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. Man, the Most High voice sound like a trumpet. And guess what? It split through everything and everyone. And they feared to the point that they said, hey, Moses, we rather have you be the middleman. So wrapping this up, last passage I want to highlight. The trumpet is a key tool of a watchman. You know, many try to throw around the term watchman, right? And as I share with you, watchmen's, right? Signals for the watchman. Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 2, starting at verse 2, because many will try to say that they're watchmen, but they'll point to Ezekiel the prophet. They'll point to Jeremiah the prophet. No, there's no Ezekiel's out here. There's no Jeremiah's. But guess what? You can be a watchman, but there's an order to this. Notice what this says here in this chapter here. Son of man, speak to the children of Israel. Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon the land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman. Wait a minute. The people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman. So we see that the Most High will appoint a watchman, but we also see the people appointing watchmen. That's what the scripture is saying. We have so many people that have self-appointed. They are self-appointed. They place themselves as being what? A watchman. And that's why we have so many people all over the place. All over the place. All over the place. Now, when I said, going back, I say Yaquaba. When I say bar, right? Because bar, also Aramaic bar, son, right? That's why we see the name Simon Bar Jonah. We also see Bar Rabbis, which means son of the father, right? So you'll also see that when you look up Bar in the ancient Hebrew, you'll see it also means son. All right. So just wanted to give clarity as we get ready to wrap up here. All right. So, son of man, speak to the children of thy people and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman, right? If when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people. So this is them looking for outside threats. This is them looking for other nations trying to what? Attack them, invade them. But we have taken this now, say, the Most High set me watchmen to watch over the people and warn the people about our own people. That's not what, come on, family. We're supposed to be teaching one another. We're supposed to do like Nehemiah did when they built the walls, when they rebuilt the walls, right? He built the walls and they kept what? The strangers on the outside. Then they began to what? Deal with the issues that they had among them. They had the Sanballats and all of them, the Geshems on the outside of the wall. See, we missed that point. We think that being a watchman is exposing and just taking all our family business and just blowing it all out there to the world, so that way the world can see that we're a bunch. Yep, we see. Yep, they're a bunch of those people in the awakening. Man, they is all over the place. They're all over the place. Yeah, there's no unity in it. Look, they're a joke over there. They're just all over the place. They just all over the place. All right? They just all over the place. All over the place. So again, that's a true watchman. Not trying to put our own brothers and sisters on blast. That's internal business. But anyway, I digress. If when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be on his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. Wrapping this up. But if the watchman see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquities, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So guess what? This is saying if we are true watchmen, appointed watchmen, and we don't sound that alarm, when the threat comes, we got blood on our hands. But if we sound that alarm and people don't listen, the blood is not on our hands. That's all that's saying. So with that being said, family, I hope this really blessed you guys. I know I covered a lot inside this lesson. Ooh, I hit the wrong one. Did I hit the wrong one? Yeah, I hit the wrong one. Let me put this back here again. I didn't mean to do that. Let me put this back up. Let me see if this put this back up. All right, let me remove this. Let me share it again. All right, let me bring this back up. My family, I hope and pray that this lesson blessed you. I hope that this has given you proper clarity on the importance of blowing of the trumpets. This is actually the true sound of unity. I know that you guys desire for unity, and I do too, among our community. And that's the true clarity of what the blowing of the trumpets really is. So share this video, share it on your YouTube channel, share it on your Facebook channels. Go back over and watch the videos. So with that being said, family, in the words of, what's going on here? All right, family. My apologies. All of a sudden, I just got kicked out of StreamYard right when I got close to the end of the lesson, and I was making my final comments. And family, my apologies. I'll just say Hasatan is busy trying to do anything he can to bring discord, to try to close this out on a sour note. But I'm going to say here, Yah is able, And I hope and pray that this message really blessed you guys tonight. Again, go back over and watch this lesson, share the video. It seemed like when I said go watch this lesson again, share the video, all of a sudden I got kicked out. So share the video, do the very thing that Hasatan doesn't want you to do. So let's give the garbage can to Hasatan and all those that are part of his team. Their family, in the words of the Most High that he gave to Moses to encourage the people, Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you will never have to deal with them again. You will not have to see them again. They will not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But family, we have to hold our peace. And remember, the Hebrew word there is charash, right? Charash is there. Remember the phrase, peace be still. Charash knock. But the Hebrew word we're going to focus on in this text that I quoted is charash, which means be quiet. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.